Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Carl Ashley here at DB Computer Solutions. We're just going to spend some time today introducing the SmartOffice solution. We get asked by a lot of companies using Sage as well as other account software platforms how best they can address the issue of manually uploading supplier invoices to their account software. As a Sage business partner, DB have a range of solutions and add-ons that talk to Sage that are designed to help make life easier for customers and client sites using Sage 50, Sage 200, Sage CRM, and Sage Payroll, and what have you. But today we're going to focus on the SmartOffice solution, and our colleague in SmartOffice, Wayne, is going to run through some I suppose, slides and information as to how best people can avail of this particular solution. How are you doing, Wayne?
Well, good. Thank you, Colin. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks. Thanks for being able to make yourself available to run through this. Well, let's start with, say, what would be the most common issue that people have, or what's the most prevalent problem that people are looking to address through a solution like SmartOffice?
For me, it's probably time and accuracy. I think, depending on your volume of invoices that you receive in a month, if you may be receiving 200, you may be receiving 2,000. By automating the system from start to end, it doesn't really matter the volume that you're receiving. It's really the same personnel that you need to work and process those invoices.
So the time taken, the time saved from, obviously it's important to have some element of manual data entry, but people have got more important things to be doing when they're running a business, right?
Most definitely. And it's not only the time of processing the invoice, it's filing the invoice, finding the invoice later. When auditors come on site and need to have access to invoices, it's searching for it then. We really take care of all of that for you from start to end. And all of that's really achieved by automating your system.
Okay, fantastic. So do you want to take it away?
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so what I've done is I've got a couple of slides. There's only about 8 or 9 slides to take you through, but hopefully by the end of it, you'll get a good idea of what we're trying to achieve by automating your accounts payable. So really, the tagline here is we're trying to drastically reduce the cost of processing supplier invoices by up to 80% with automation. And that's exactly it. It's the time your invoices come into the system to the time they go out. That whole bit in the middle, we take care of from a coding perspective, a filing perspective, an approval perspective, capture perspective. All of that's really taken care of with automation.
Mm-hmm.
So with the SmartOffice solution, really the key benefits, what we're trying to achieve is reducing your costs by up to 80%. With that, we give you huge savings in your whole process, front to end. We've got quite a nice ROI calculator. If you have any clients that are interested in the solution, we can sit down with them and calculate the actual ROI against their business process. Number of invoices that you process, your costs for printing, etc., etc. All of those total up to your ultimate savings in the end. Our solution is cloud native. It's a SaaS product, so there's no installation on your machine. There's no installation in your organization. It's also a full turnkey solution. We set it up for you. We configure it and link it to your Sage 50, your Sage 200. You might be running Dynamics, SAP. We're really ERP agnostic, and we will really fit on top of any ERP from a processing perspective. We also offer unlimited storage and unlimited users. So that just means we don't charge you for the number of users that you have accessing the system or the number of documents that you store on the platform. All we really bill you for is the usage of the system. So the number of documents that you process in a month, you'll fall into a certain tier from a costing perspective. Excuse me. There's a couple of key points that I'd like to point out before I take you into the actual workflow. So these are some of the key features that we offer from a SmartOffice perspective. First of all, automated nominal ledger coding. Really, we get 2 types of invoices coming through the system. One would be a PO type supplier, and one would be a nominal supplier. If we're receiving nominal type invoices, we have an expectancy of what we're going to receive from what suppliers. So we have an understanding on how we firstly code that invoice and also the workflow that's required to get that invoice approved. And we'll send that document along its merry way. Once we receive it digitally, we'll capture it, we'll code it, and we'll forward it onto an individual for approval. If you're using PO suppliers and you've got your POs created, we've got the ability to create POs either in our system, or if you're using Sage or Sage 200 to create your POs, we'll pull in that PO information into SmartOffice. The idea then is we've got an expectancy for invoices to arrive. And as soon as that invoice arrives, we would capture that invoice for you automatically, and we would automate the 2- or 3-way match back to the PO or the GRN. If everything's good in the world, we can move that into a queue to be pushed into the finance system without anybody touching that invoice. If there's any sorts of discrepancies, we obviously pass that along to somebody in the AP team to have a look at and correct what they need to correct. From a statement, yeah.
Right there, I have a question, right? And apologies to cut across you. Is this solution therefore just geared for companies that are raising their POs in advance, or can this be deployed at client sites where they don't raise their POs within Sage, should we say?
Certainly. So we've got the ability to read your POs coming in from Sage. We've got the ability to create POs in our platform itself, which is quite a nice add-on to the system. Sometimes the PO creation or Sage or the ERP, whatever you're using, may charge you per user, whoever's going to be raising POs, etc. That we don't have any user costs in our system. So we can read POs from a third-party source, from the ERP, or within our system ourselves. We will create those POs for you.
So if companies are in specific industries like sort of steel or engineering or manufacturing, and they have a third-party software that either integrates with Sage or standalone, and they're raising their POs and managing stock within that, the SmartOffice solution can integrate with their third-party software as well.
Correct. 100%.
Gotcha. Okay.
Perfect. And I'll take you through that workflow shortly on the next slide to show you how that really works. From a statement rec perspective, obviously a very manual process in most organizations. You know, I was just on a meeting now where I was chatting to somebody that had 500 suppliers. At the end of the month, they don't even have time to go through all their statements. From a statement rec perspective, we take care of all of that for you. So we would receive those statements digitally. We would understand which supplier they're attached to. As soon as we know that, we'll read the statement information, every line item on that statement, and we'll match that back to the invoices that have been processed in the system. If anything's missing, we highlight it for you on the screen. So quite important, it's an instantaneous process for us. So if you're receiving one statement or 500 statements, you're going to go to your screen, you're going to open them up, and they're all really waiting for you. Price Watch, quite a unique feature that we have built into our system as well. Out of the box, we would start reading product information, line item information off of invoices, and we store that in the database for you. So you can glean quite nice analytics out of that. But really what that does in the application for you is invoice on invoice from supplier as you receive them, we'll be monitoring and tracking costs on every product and every line item on an invoice. So if there's been any fluctuation in pricing, as that invoice is presented to you on the screen, you can see exactly what products have gone up or gone down from a cost perspective. Obviously, that's quite key, because if you can catch that up front before you approve an invoice, you can send a request or a message back to your supplier requesting, you know, why has this product gone up by 12% or 20%? You're going to catch those kind of out of the box from the product itself. Document tracking, really what we do here is we take care of everything from the automation perspective. So from the receipt of that invoice, we would file it away for you. You would always be able to search and find it. But more so from an AP perspective of managing queues, who's waiting for what invoices to be approved. Let's just say that I've got 10 documents in my approval queue. I've gone on leave for a week, and Cole needs these invoices approved quite quickly.
Right. You can't wait until I get back from holidays, right? Yeah.
We all deserve them every now and then. So what we'll do then is you'd have control to see exactly what documents Wayne's got waiting for his approval, and you could move that onto Cole for approval or move it onto somebody else for approval to get them through. Quite key here to note though, everything in the system is audited. When it was received, who it came from, who approved it. If I moved that document to Cole for approval, we would follow that Wayne had it. It was moved to Cole for approval. Cole approved it. So everything on the platform is audited from start to end.
So there's an important point here. Part of the advantages or benefits of using a software solution like this is it's not just an out-of-the-box solution that a company then has to adapt to. You can deploy this software solution to adapt to the way that a company currently does their approvals process. So if you've
Correct.
got sort of an accounts admin person, a financial controller, a finance director, a business owner, let's say there's a few chiefs in the process, and they all have some kind of role or some kind of involvement, depending on who the invoice is from, what the amount of the invoice is, if there's a good relationship with that supplier, and so on. So what they can do is they can create the approvals process based on a set of rules that works for them. Is that fair to say?
Exactly on the mark. We can even change approval rules depending on content on an invoice. So let's just say you've got 3 branches. If we receive an invoice and the address is addressed to branch A, address on the second invoice is branch B, we can identify that and send those documents to different people for different approvals.
Excellent.
Perfect. So what I've got now is really a high-level process flow diagram, trying to articulate what we're trying to achieve at a very high level. Obviously, it's the meters down to the detail, obviously, of individual processes and individual configurations, but really this is what we're trying to achieve. We would prefer, to get digital type documents, so PDF invoices sent through to a mailbox. Your supplier can send them through. If you've got your own mailbox in your organization called creditors at DB Computers, you can forward those to a new mailbox. So what we're trying to do then is get those documents bundled together on an email and sent through to a mailbox that we'll set up for the customer and that we'll monitor for the customer. So all those documents will come through, arrive at that mailbox.
Right.
We've got a bit of AI that looks at those documents and pulls those out of those mails. We'll identify what's an invoice, what's a credit note, and what's a statement, and we'll apply different rules to those. As we receive that document, our system would code it, capture that document, pull out all the supplier information, the invoice details, invoice date, products, etc., carriage, VAT breakdown, VAT table, etc. We'll read all that information. Once we know that, we'll know exactly who it needs to go to for approval. The document will follow a certain route, arrive on someone's desk for them to look at, and they've got the ability then to approve it or reject it. If they reject it, they'll need to put in a reason why they're rejecting that document, and that rejection notice will go back to the supplier via the system. If we receive a document, and in this case, supplier B has a PO number on it, it could go one of 2 routes. We could say, we'll do the 2-way match for you or 3-way match for you. If you elected for that to still go to someone to have a look at, just to visually see, eyeball that document before it gets pushed into a queue to be updated in the ERP, you can. If they approve it, that document then would be pushed into a queue to be updated into the finance system. If the 2-way or 3-way match happened and we've matched the invoice to the PO, to the quantity, to the value, etc., that can automatically be pushed into the ERP. So if you think of an organization that's receiving 1,000 invoices a month, if they've all got POs attached to them and all the data is good, nobody needs to have a look at any of those documents. They can be pushed straight to the ERP.
In theory.
In theory. That's why it's the 80-20 rule. We'll reduce your costs by 80%. There's always some sort of problems.
There's always something, yeah.
If we receive a document and we identify that it's a statement, we'll pick up that statement, we'll read all the details off of it, and we will reconcile that statement back to the invoices that have been processed in the system. If everything matches, we can mark that statement as reconciled. What's quite crucial to understand here is this entire process is touchless. So from the time we receive an invoice, the coding of the invoice, the capturing of the invoice, the filing of the invoice, the workflow of who it needs to go to, everything's taken care of by the system. The AP team, all they're really responsible for is really pushing the data into their finance system. We don't automatically push the data into the finance system. We load it in a queue in SmartOffice to say this data is clean, this data is approved, waiting to go in. And then the AP team will have control of to say, I only want to push June's invoices into Sage. I don't want to push July because we're waiting to post July next month. And you're in complete control of what goes and when it goes. Again, this is a very high level, the meat is really in the detail when we sit down and discuss it with our clients and configure it for them. But we really got the flexibility to change the business process wherever we needed and the workflow process at the same time.
So for somebody who is under pressure time-wise, the whole idea of this is it gives them back a bit of time to do something more constructive than manual data input, such as getting on the phone to people where there's outstanding invoices that need to be paid to get money in, to get cash flow in, to get, you know, things moving in a full sort of business spectrum sense across the whole side of the finance function.
Exactly, 100%. And you know, the system grows with your business. So if you got a business that's receiving 200 supplier invoices and all of a sudden you start booming and you're onto 500, the system will take care of all of that for you. You've got no additional headache from a process perspective.
Yeah, I've met a few very shrewd business owners that have deployed some of our add-ons in order to facilitate the growth of the company. And the whole point is this is not designed to replace people. It's there to help the existing people or the people that are brought into the business. So exactly. if you can harness these kind of solutions in a way that facilitates growing your revenue, growing your client base, and growing your bottom line and your GP, then happy days, you know?
Exactly. Well, I've really got 3 more slides to take you through. It's really just to break up that process into individual sections, if you so will. Really, this is your purchase order process from start to end. Again, you could be creating your PO in Sage. You could have a third-party system creating your PO, or you could even use SmartOffice to create your requisition, get your PO approved, and create the PO. Either way, we've got a PO that needs to be matched to an invoice. So again, if you decide to GRN your stock in, you may or may not do that step. It's really optional from a stock receipt point of view. The idea is we're waiting for an invoice to arrive in the system. As soon as that invoice arrives in the system, we will extract all the data off of that invoice, and we'll know that that supplier has a PO waiting to be matched against them. And we'll automate the 2- or 3-way match back to the GRN and the PO on the platform. If everything matches in the world, that can go straight into the queue to be uploaded into the finance system. If there's any sorts of issues with that invoice, we'd pop it into a queue for someone to review and rectify. That could be duplicate invoices coming to the system, closed accounting periods. Maybe the invoice doesn't match the PO. Whatever that reason is, we want to catch those obviously before it goes into the finance system. What's key to understand here is everything that's waiting to get pushed into the finance system is clean, approved, captured data. And that's what we're trying to achieve. If everything is good in the world, as you said, from the time we receive an invoice to the time it's pushed into the finance system could literally be minutes, because everything's automated. It's not waiting for somebody to get back from lunch or a smoke break to pick up that invoice, to capture it, to check it against the PO. It's taken care of automatically. And ideally, 10 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, when we're sleeping, the system can be working for you, which is...
Do people still have smoke breaks in this day and age, Wayne? I didn't know if they're even allowed anymore, are they?
I think it's called vape breaks now, let's be honest.
But the whole point is there's no delays in the process, right?
Exactly. On the flip side of things, if you're receiving nominal only type invoices, where we've got invoices that, you know, could be utilities bills or anything of the sort, the only difference now is we don't have an expectancy for an invoice. So we'll still receive that invoice in our mailbox. We'll still extract all that information off of it. And using rules that we've built into the platform, we would identify the supplier. We would identify how we need to code that invoice. It could be defaulted by supplier. It could be products or line items on an invoice that define what nominals that we code this invoice to. Whatever that is, we've built that into the system and built it into the workflow. So when we receive that invoice, the system will identify it, it will code it, it will forward it onto somebody for approval.
So for example, like an ESB bill, right? It's a non-PO invoice that's coming in. Once the system recognizes what it is and where it goes, any future ESB bills from the same provider will be dealt with accordingly.
Correct. And the workflow rules could change, because I might be getting ESB bill for my office in Cork, you might be getting one in Limerick. And when we receive it, we'll know the Limerick one needs to go to you for approval. Right. Cork one will come to me for approval.
Gotcha.
All the same business rules and checks we'll do up front. We don't want to send anything to anybody for approval if there's any sorts of business rules that fail on it. So we'll check the invoice to make sure it's a valid type invoice. It's got all the details on it. It's not a duplicate invoice, not a closed accounting period. We can link it to budgets. If your budgets have been spent, we don't want to send that on for approval. We build all those rules for you. But again, you've got the rules and the ability to approve invoices, reject them, forward them, put them on hold, add comments to it, whatever you wanted to do in this piece here, you can do. And when that invoice is ready, we'll move it on to the approval or upload queue. So that takes care of your nominal type invoices. Next, statements. It's a powerful process to see, and a lot of our clients have said, just this piece itself can actually pay for the whole system in entirety.
Right.
Really, because this is such a manual process in most organizations.
Yeah.
If you start talking to a poor accounts person and talk about statement rec and they're getting 500 statements, that's the day they want to go and crawl in the corner and cry, because it's a manual process. So what we're trying to do here is automate it. So we would receive a statement digitally, would extract all the data off that statement, and we'd automatically reconcile the invoices on this statement back to the invoices that we've processed on the system. If there's anything missing, we highlight it for you on the screen. So as you open the statement on your screen, if there's 30 line items and 2 invoices are missing, those 2 invoices are automatically highlighted on the screen. All we do then is we give you a button, you click on that button, the system then will send a notification back to your supplier and say, hey, Mr. Supplier, on this statement dated June 2024, these 2 invoices are missing. Please submit them into our platform. The platform will pick it up, process them. When you open up that statement again, those won't be highlighted anymore. They've been reconciled. And we'll mark that statement as reconciled and save it on the system. All documents are automatically filed away. So just a post note here right at the end is when we receive an invoice, a credit note, a statement, those documents, as we receive them in the mailbox, our little AI engine goes and grabs all that information off of them and files them away for you. So at any point in the process, you can search and find any document. You can search for statements, invoices, or credit notes. You can search for products on invoices. You can search for PO numbers. Any information that's physically on that document, you can search for and find that document and bring it back later.
So for the likes of the companies that are dealing with nuts and bolts and they're running into 10,000 or so line items within Sage 50, for example, and the discrepancy between one product and another is literally, a measurement like 5 millimeters, or, there's a huge variety or range in the name of an item or its product code. I guess being able to find those easily is a huge win.
That's exactly it. So, you may not remember the invoice number or anything about that invoice. You might remember I ordered boots as an example. You could type in boots, and any invoice that had a product with a name inside that product of boots would return to you on the screen. You can open up that invoice.
Yeah, I guess that's particularly invaluable if you've got lots of invoices from the same supplier with similar product names.
Yeah.
Right?
Powerful, very, very powerful. And we build that product database over time, so we can give you price comparisons between invoice from that supplier to say, last month it was X, today it's Y. You've got all that reporting power built into the platform itself and all the data waiting for you to analyze it.
And one of the key things, we've gone live with this solution at, I'd say easily a couple of 100 sites over the last 5 or 6 years. One of the key sort of feedback features we get is the fact that the solution is revenue compliant. So it has to store data for up to 7 years. So at any time someone is likely to need, information for auditors or to do a stock take, they can retrieve that information with a click of a button. Not only is it just about being revenue compliant, but it's also very handy and again, a time-saving feature for companies that can avail of this.
Exactly. And what's super powerful about it, your auditors may want copies of documents. If you're comfortable with it, you can actually give your auditor access to the platform. They can sign in and they can search and find the documents without actually interfering with your current business day-to-day tasks.
Another headache solved.
Everything's on the system, the full audit log of exactly what happened to every single document, any edits on a document, approvals, forwards, backup documentation. If I'm receiving a nominal type invoice and I want to attach a quote to it, we'll store that quote with that invoice free of charge on the platform for the whole revenue duration of that invoice. So everything's in one place for you to search and find at a later stage.
Okay, is there anything we haven't covered?
I think that's it from our side. I think really what we need to do is, if anybody wants to see the product, it's really getting us in and unpacking it with them in their current environment and for their process.
Yeah, so there are some processes that are the same for every company, but then for a lot of cases, there are things that are unique to that particular company. So what we'll do is organize and host a tailored demo for anyone that's interested, where we can get into the nitty-gritty of certain details depending on their current process and existing processes.
That's it.
All righty. So unless there's anything else, we'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks to yourself, Wayne, and thanks to anyone for watching. And yeah, you can contact us on www.dbcomp.ie, and I can see that you've got smartoffice.io. Okay, thanks a million, Wayne. Take care, and God bless you.